Grit meets glacier, let the wild showdown begin. Alright folks, buckle up, because today's face-off is not your average backyard barkfest or a snowy stroll through the Arctic. We're diving into the ultimate what-if wildlife showdown, and trust me, you're gonna want front row seats for this one. In one corner, we've got the Pitbull. Not just any dog, but the blue-collar brawler of the animal kingdom. Picture a canine Rocky Balboa, short, stocky, and full of fire. I've worked with pit bulls during rescue missions, and let me tell you, these dogs don't just have heart. They are heart. I once saw one dig through 2 feet of rubble on a busted leg just to reach its injured owner. That's not just loyalty, that's legendary. And in the other corner, say hello to the polar bear. The heavyweight snow monster of the north. Imagine a grizzly on steroids wrapped in a winter coat and bred for bone-crushing brawls. A predator so massive, its dinner menu includes walruses. Yeah, those guys. The ones with tusks. Now, let's be honest. These two would never cross paths in real life unless the Pitbull booked a one-way ticket to the Arctic wearing a thermal vest and a lot of luck. But hey, that's what imagination is for. So here's the million-dollar question. What happens when street-bred Grit takes on a walking iceberg of fury? Can determination, agility, and sheer guts stand a chance against one of nature's most ruthless killing machines? Stay with me, because we're about to break it down like a Friday night fight card, and it's going to get wild. Meet the muscle, the Pitbull, street-born and battle-tested. Now let's shine the spotlight on our first challenger, the Pitbull. And no, we're not talking about the guy with sunglasses and a microphone. We're talking about the four-legged fury with a heart bigger than its body and jaws that could double as hydraulic tools. The Pitbull is the working-class hero of the canine world. It wasn't bred to lounge on satin pillows or sip bone broth lattes. This dog was forged in the fires of old-school dogfighting pits, built to take a hit, give one back, and never ever back down. Think of it as the Mike Tyson of the dog world. Short, explosive, and absolutely fearless. Tail of the tape. Weight: around 66 pounds or 30 kilograms. That's about the size of your average fourth grader, except this one is made of pure muscle and attitude. Bite force: a jaw-dropping 2,350 psi. That's more pressure than a crocodile-sized handshake. If this dog grabs hold, you're going to feel it. And no, it doesn't actually lock its jaw, but once it clamps down, it's not letting go unless someone hits rewind on the universe. Speed: up to 25 miles per hour. This isn't a slow-motion brawler. It's a heat-seeking missile wrapped in fur. Strengths: toughness like you wouldn't believe. I've seen pit bulls take hits that would make bigger dogs cry uncle and still come back snarling. It's not just their power, it's their drive. This is the kind of dog that, if it were a football player, would tackle a freight train and ask for seconds. Fighting spirit: pit bulls don't care about size. You could throw them in a ring with a lion, and they'd still charge headfirst. I once met a pit bull named Tank who tried to square off with a horse, not chase it, fight it. That's the kind of never-say-die mentality we're talking about. This little warrior is the embodiment of that underdog American grit. You know that movie where the small-town boxer trains in a meat locker and goes the distance against the champ? That boxer is a pit bull, so here's the big question for you. Can sheer willpower, tenacity, and one of the strongest bites in the animal kingdom really take on a giant from the Arctic Circle? Does spirit matter more than size when the heat of battle kicks in? Let's find out, because our next challenger isn't just big. It's a whole snow-covered beast in its own right. The Arctic Titan. Meet the polar bear, king of the cold. Now hold on to your snow boots, folks, because it's time to meet the heavyweight champion of the frozen north, the polar bear. If the Pitbull is a scrappy street fighter, the polar bear is a walking iceberg with claws. Towering, terrifying, and totally in charge, this beast didn't climb to the top of the Arctic food chain by accident. It was born there. Let's break it down. Imagine stepping outside into a world that's cold enough to freeze your eyelashes solid. Now imagine living there, thriving there, hunting there. The polar bear does just that, and it does it without breaking a sweat. If Mother Nature had a gladiator forged from ice and muscle, this would be it. Tail of the tape. Weight: between 1,000 and 1,500 pounds. That's heavier than a grand piano or a Harley-Davidson, and every ounce of it is weaponized. Height: when it stands up on its hind legs, it reaches nearly 10 feet tall. That's basketball hoop height, people. Imagine that coming toward you with teeth bared. Bite force, around 1,200 psi. Not as intense as the Pitbulls, but don't be fooled. Those jaws are made to crush seal skulls like soda cans. Speed, about 25 miles per hour in short bursts. That's fast enough to catch you before you can scream, "I thought bears hibernate." Natural arsenal. Let's talk about those paws. Each one is the size of a dinner plate and armed with claws up to 4 inches long. One swipe can tear flesh, crack bones, and send prey straight into the next life. Combine that with teeth made to rip through thick blubber, and you've got a predator that's as brutal as it is efficient. Survival skills. This isn't just a big, fluffy tank. Polar bears are elite survivalists. They can swim for miles, literally over 60 if needed, through freezing waters to track seals. They can sniff prey from nearly a mile away, and they're strong enough to smash through thick sea ice like a sledgehammer with fur. I once watched footage of a polar bear stalking a seal for over an hour, never rushing, never making a sound. Then bam, with one explosive move, it lunged through the ice and dragged out a 200-pound seal like it was a rubber duck. That's patience and power wrapped into one snowy powerhouse. So here's what we're up against. An apex predator with no natural enemies. A cold weather killer built to outlast, outthink, and overpower everything in its domain. Now here's the question we all need to ask. Can sheer grit, speed, and an iron will really overcome a beast this big, this cold, and this completely unbothered by pain or fear? The Pitbull has heart, no doubt. But is that enough when you're staring down a carnivore that's been ruling the Arctic since the Ice Age? Time to find out. Fangs, fury, and fight IQ, breaking down the battle game plans. Alright folks, the stage is set and the fur is about to fly. But before we ring the imaginary bell on this wild showdown, let's take a good look at what our two warriors are bringing into the ring. Because this isn't just about brute strength, oh no. It's a tactical brawl, a tooth and claw chess match, and the battlefield is the unforgiving wild. Let's break it down by fighter, and trust me, this part gets juicy. In the red corner, the Pitbull, the relentless underdog. Don't let the size fool you. This little gladiator is a one-dog wrecking crew loaded with grit, lightning reflexes, and a jaw that feels like a steel trap. Primary weapon, that mouth. More specifically, the bite. When a Pitbull latches on, it doesn't let go easily. There's no lockjaw in a medical sense, but what is real is the sheer tenacity and muscle behind every chomp. We're talking 2,350 psi of pressure. That's enough to turn a tree branch into splinters or make a grown man rethink his life choices. Tactical style, all offense, all the time. The Pitbull's go-to move. Get in fast, bite something important like a leg or the throat and hang on like it's chewing through a chew toy from hell. There's no backing off, no tapping out. It aims to outlast its opponent by sheer willpower and pain tolerance. Advantages: agile, fearless, and built like a linebacker. This dog knows how to duck, weave, and dive headfirst into danger. It's like fighting someone who doesn't care that they're bleeding as long as they're still biting. I once saw a Pitbull hold its ground against a much larger dog, taking hit after hit without flinching. It's not about size with these dogs. It's about mindset. And this one, it's all heart and hustle. But does raw aggression stand a chance against a predator built to break seals in half? In the blue corner, the polar bear, the cold-blooded crusher. Now we're talking serious firepower. The polar bear is nature's version of a monster truck, big, unstoppable, and dangerously efficient. Primary weapons: those paws are weapons of mass destruction. Each one swings with the force of a sledgehammer and carries claws up to 4 inches long. A single swipe could split open a seal or worse, a skull. And the teeth. They're built to crush, tear, and chew through layers of fat and muscle. Tactical style, power and patience. The polar bear doesn't waste energy. It watches, it waits, and when the moment's right, it unloads a tidal wave of violence. First, it corners the enemy, then comes the grapple. Once you're caught in those forearms, it's lights out. A bite to the spine or a paw to the ribs, and the fight is over before it begins. Advantages: size, strength, and stamina. These bears are used to surviving Arctic blizzards, swimming miles through freezing water, and taking hits most animals wouldn't walk away from. They don't just fight to win, They fight because losing means starving. I've watched a polar bear stalk prey across a frozen landscape for hours, then strike with brutal precision. It doesn't get frustrated. It doesn't get tired. It just gets the job done. So here's the million-dollar question. Can the Pitbull's speed and relentless attack overwhelm a beast this massive before getting flattened like a pancake? Or will the bear's patience and punishing power shut it all down the moment the dog gets too close? Will heart and hustle be enough to break the mountain? Or will the mountain remind us why it never moves? Let's find out. Clash of Titans, the frozen face-off. Alright, buckle up, folks. We're about to drop into the most dramatic backyard brawl the Arctic never saw. Picture a frozen tundra straight out of a nature documentary mixed with a Hollywood action movie. The wind howls, snow swirls, and the ground crunches with every step. This isn't your average scuffle behind the shed. This is survival theater, and the curtain is rising. From the south side of the icy arena comes the Pitbull, low to the ground, eyes locked in. It's not here to dance, it's here to bite. 30 kilograms of pure muscle, attitude, and uncheckable focus, sprinting like a cannonball with legs. No hesitation, no calculation, just instinct and grit. The bear sees it. This isn't its first rodeo. But even for a creature used to hunting stealthy seals beneath the ice, a dog charging full speed with murder in its eyes is worth a second look. Bam! First contact. The Pitbull lunges and latches onto the polar bear's front leg like a vice grip made of bone and fury. That bite is deep, unrelenting. It's like someone clamped jumper cables on the bear's ankle and turned up the voltage. The polar bear lets out a growl that shakes the trees, eyes wide with surprise. But here's where size starts to talk louder than pain. With the kind of power that only comes from 1,000 pounds of raw force, the bear lifts one dinner plate-sized paw and sends it crashing down in a blinding arc. That swipe isn't a warning, it's a punishment. Snow sprays, blood splashes, and the Pitbull is sent skidding across the frozen ground like a hockey puck on game night. Most creatures would stay down after that, not this one. The Pitbull stands up, wobbly, bleeding, but still staring death in the face like it owes him money. It limps forward and lunges again, this time angling low toward the bear's underside. It's desperate now, gambling everything on one last strike, but the polar bear is done playing. With a calculated pivot and a terrifying flash of those massive teeth, the bear grabs the Pitbull midair and slams it to the ground. The snow muffles the impact, but you can still feel the weight of it. The jaws tighten around the Pitbull's back, one crunch, and it's over. Silence returns, the snow drifts, the wind whistles. And in the middle of that frozen battlefield, one beast still stands. The polar bear wins. It's brutal, it's heartbreaking. But it's also the raw reality of nature's law. No referees, no second chances. Just two animals doing what evolution taught them to do. Now let me tell you something. I've spent years observing predators in the wild, and I've seen courage take many forms. What the Pitbull brought to that fight was nothing short of legendary. It had no business going toe-to-toe with a snow giant, and yet it did, without blinking. That's heart. That's bravery. That's the kind of spirit that gets songs written about it. But in the wild, heart alone doesn't always equal victory. Still, let me ask you this. Do you think the bear will ever forget that bite? Will it walk away from this fight thinking, what in the frozen world just happened? Sometimes, losing doesn't mean you weren't the hero. Final roar, the message behind the mayhem. So, what did we just witness? On one side, we had the Pitbull, the street-smart underdog with the heart of a prizefighter and the spirit of a creature that simply refuses to quit. This dog came in swinging with everything it had, putting every ounce of fire, muscle, and stubborn willpower into the fight. If bravery were enough to win battles, that bear would be running back to the ice pack with its tail between its legs. But this isn't a fairy tale, this is nature, and nature has rules. Harsh ones, no judges, no mercy, no second round if you're on the wrong end of a paw the size of a frying pan. The polar bear, with its colossal frame, devastating strength, and predator's patience, didn't just win. It dominated. That was biology in action. That was evolution cashing in on millions of years of apex design. And when you're packing 1,500 pounds of fur-covered muscle and a bite that can crush bone like a twig, well, the odds tend to swing in your favor. Still, let's not walk away thinking the Pitbull lost in every way. Because here's the thing, Courage matters. There's something undeniably powerful about watching a smaller fighter stand tall against impossible odds. It reminds us of every David and Goliath story we love. It taps into something primal in us, that belief that heart can sometimes trump muscle. And even when it doesn't, even when the underdog goes down swinging, it leaves behind something more than just bruises in the snow. It leaves a legacy. I've seen it in wolves taking on bears, in birds defending their nests against creatures 100 times their size. In the wild, bravery is not always rewarded with survival, but it is always remembered. That Pitbull might not have walked away with the victory, but it earned something just as rare, our respect. So what's the real takeaway here? Bravery is beautiful, but nature respects power, precision, and the ruthless math of survival. The laws of the wild don't bend for courage. They honor strength, skill, and adaptation. But maybe, just maybe, that moment when the little guy bared his teeth at the titan, when he sank his jaws in and refused to let go, was more than just a fight. Maybe it was a reminder that even when you're outmatched, outsized, and standing alone in the cold, the fire inside you still matters, and that fire, that's something no polar bear can ever take away. Now, tell me this, in your life, when the odds look impossible, will you charge anyway? Because sometimes, even in nature's harshest corners, glory belongs to the brave. Hey, if you enjoyed this wild showdown as much as I did, don't forget to smash that subscribe button like a pitbull on a mission. We've got more epic animal battles, crazy nature facts, and untamed stories coming your way. And I want to hear from you. Who would you put in the next fight? Lion versus grizzly, crocodile versus hippo, maybe even something totally unexpected? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one, and who knows, your idea might be our next big brawl. Until then, stay curious, stay wild, and remember, in the jungle of life, sometimes it's the loudest roar that gets the spotlight, but it's the boldest heart we never forget.